really don't know. Now, I was playing frontal assault and throwing hand grenades that were rocks from the time I was 4 and 5 years old. So I played those sorts of war games in my heads, either alone or with my friends, for as long as I can remember. And with BB guns or with sticks, it was all pretty much the same. Perhaps he didn't do that. It was unfortunate and not the sort of experience that you really wish to have repeated in your life, and indeed to avoid it if at all you can. I went to a wise woman once, and she had made her predictions when I and my buddy went to visit her, and he was going into the Army as a helicopter pilot. He was getting commissioned as a warrant officer. She made three predictions, or three sets of predictions. She said that I would marry a little girl who would pull me around by my nose, and she was wrong on both counts. She said, both of you will come back from this experience. And he was my best friend and a better man than I was, and he got dinged and did not come back. And the third thing she said, which I dismissed at the time, was that you will not like war because of the waste, the useless waste. And she was dead on that. The magnitude of treasure, both in human lives and in wealth of the nation, that gets squandered is truly disturbing, which is not to say that war doesn't have a role, but it is a horrid waste of resources.
Do you recall the day your service ended? That the day that they told you, for example,
Yes.
I don't know, that they told you
I-
you're going home
Oh, from Vietnam?
from Vietnam, yes, specifically. Do you remember that day and what your feelings were?
Well, we knew to the day, almost to the hour, when departure was. And my last 3 months in Vietnam, I had extended to be with the Air Wing, which meant I was sitting in a fancy office in Da Nang at the Da Nang airstrip, which at the time was the busiest airstrip in the entire world in terms of number of aircraft taking off and landing. And no, that was business as usual. I had I, I had sort of wanted to stay for another tour. I had been 20 months at that point, and the guys at the admin said, "Tell you what, if you extend to be," because this guy was up in the admin and he detested it. He wanted to get out of there. So he said, "Tell you what, if you take this job here for a tour for 6 months, then we'll let you extend for recon," which is what I wanted. You know, they're the guys that paint their face green and run around in the bushes and do amazing, wonderful, cool things. And he said, if you take this admin job for 6 months, then we'll give you the other cool job for another 6 months. I said, well, gee, that's a year plus in Vietnam. And I would have extended for the recon, but I wasn't willing to put up with the other garbage in order to get the recon job. And in retrospect, it was a good decision on my part, because by then the units were pulling out. So had I eaten the fat in order to get the good stuff, they probably would have sent me back to the States anyway with a rotation of entire units before I got to the good stuff. So it would have been a ill-invested 6 months of my time.
So, how did you adapt to regular life when you got back?
No, I didn't. I stayed in the Marine Corps.
You stayed in the Marine Corps? Okay.
I was sent to Camp Lejeune, which is arguably an armpit of the country, and I was out in one of the perimeter areas, a place called Geiger, I think. And yeah, I was still amongst my peer group, and we were all the same crowd. Life was good, and we were cock of the walk, and we'd gone to war, and we hadn't gotten blown away. And these are good things, and we had plenty of food to eat. Some experiences. I remember I came back, and it was the dead of summer, and I would change my underwear every other day, and I didn't even have to, but it was there, so I did it anyhow. And 1 year later, I was still in the same place, and I was changing my underwear twice a day. I'd come home at noontime and take a shower and change underwear, and I found that difficult. So the transition in my mindset from changing every other day to changing twice a day was part of that acclimatization process. Was I conscious of it? No. But every now and then you look back and you say, wow, there was a real change in there.
So you did continue a lot of close relationships with your soldiers and other peers.
There was a scattering. Uh, Amongst the officer crowd, there were closer connections. You had mentioned casualties and such. We went over there, the 1st Marine Regiment, in 3 classes out of basic school, absorbed 15 Marine 2nd Lieutenant Infantry. Of those 15, 3 were killed and 2 were seriously injured. I was not one of that group. That 33% casualty rate might seem high, but it didn't seem high to me because I was part of the 66%.
So your experience and service in the Marine Corps, do you think it affected your life in a drastic way, negative or positively?
Oh yeah, if I'd never joined the Marine Corps, I wouldn't have met my wife. That's pretty drastic. Yeah, I resigned my commission and left the Marine Corps so I could get into stock brokerage investment advisorship through my father-in-law, who offered me a job through the comforting umbrella of nepotism, which I was comfortable embracing. I had met my wife through a magazine, Leatherneck magazine. The Leatherneck had always had a section in it, people trying to connect with their old friends. Sergeant Melvin Mudsuck would like to meet any of his friends that were with him in the 142nd Bicycle Repair Battalion in Hawaii between 1918 and 1920. But during the Vietnam experience, they opened it up to young ladies who, for whatever, God knows reason, wanted to correspond with Marines, which really wasn't a great career step on their behalf, I would think. But there was a gal that was down here in Florida, in Venice, and my mother had recently moved to Sarasota to do freelance court reporting work. And I didn't know anyone back here, and I had come off a Mediterranean cruise for 6 months, so I figured anybody was better than nobody. So I wrote her a letter. I said, our unit has recently been involved in thwarting a communist plot designed to infiltrate the United States with muskox disguised as traveling cosmetic salesmen, carrying sample tubes of lipstick, which were in reality nuclear devices, set to detonate on New Year's Eve, signaling a general uprising of hooded and bovine creatures, McGovernites, and communists. This evil plot was thwarted by the United States Marine Corps. I hope to meet you sometime and tell you the details of the squashing of the muskox plot. She responded. She had a picture. She was an attractive gal. So I quickly went on my leave. I'd spent the last 5 Christmases away from home. So my mother was interested in seeing me. And I said, hey, Ma, how you doing? Where's your phone? I called up and said, hey, this is the muskox guy. Let's go on a date and take you to a restaurant. She said she didn't like to go to restaurants because people smoked there. I thought that was a come-on. So I said, great, we could sit in my car in a drive-in, and I'll tell you the details of the squashing of the muskox plot, I said as I curled my mustache. She said she wasn't about to go out with someone she had never met and been introduced to. So I said, great, I'll get a half-gallon of ice cream and we'll sit on your front porch and I'll tell you the details of the squashing of the muskox plot. I got invited to dinner and spent most of it talking with her dad on stock investments, which was fascinating. When I was young, I thought money would bring me happiness. I was right. And 2.5 years later, we agreed to tie the knot, and 3 years later, we were actually 1 day shy of 3 years later. We were going to get hitched up on New Year's Day, but her father pointed out that if I got married the day before, I could declare her as a tax deduct. Because it was in the prior year, and I finished the year as a married man. And that was beginning of a long